Hello and welcome back to the Pit Wall Podcast, where this week we'll be talking about the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, which is, these 2 weekends combined are some of my favorites. So,
well, it might be your favorite because Red Bull won their 6th constructor championship, not in a row, but 6th constructor championship, and but they didn't have the best race ever.
listen, for them winning a constructors championship, this is not how you expect them to do it. That's all I'm going to say for now.
Yeah, well,
going into this race,
it was quite the race. I really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of sad that we're on a break until 2 weeks from now. Right now.
Yeah.
But it'll be okay because you get to listen to us talk about it for a little bit. So without further ado, let's talk about qualifying. Qualifying 60, here we go, 3, 2, 1. All right, so first thing to note, Logan Sargent crash, mega crash. It was crazy. There was Joe Guan Yu in 19th, Nico Hulkenberg in 18th, Lance Stroll, Mr. No Delta himself in P17, Valtteri Bottas in the bottom 5, once again, P16, K-Mag snuck out into P15. Good for him. Ocon, bad qualifying for Alpine in 14 and 12 with Albon in 13, still outperforming that Williams. We had Liam Lawson in possibly his final F1 qualifying for a while in P11. Fernando Alonso barely snuck into the top 10. Yuki Tsunoda, P9. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, 8 and 7. Not great for Mercedes, not great pace. Previous week's winner in 6th, Carlos Sainz. Checo in 5th. Leclerc in 4th. Lando and Oscar, double top 3 finish, start, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And Max Verstappen in 1st. So another pole for Max.
What was your time?
Before I said another pole for Max, I was right, but I started checking
okay.
and I would start tripping over myself.
Gotcha.
So yeah, pretty normal quality except for Logan crashing.
You mean a normal?
Yeah, sorry, normal qualifying.
Normal qualifying.
I think the thing that really stuck out to me was how slow Mercedes was, but I was expecting one of them to get out in Q2 with how slow they were on Friday. So I'll take this. And also I stayed up and this started at 1 a.m. and I watched this live. So
I saw you post about it. Like when I
dedication
gotten up
dedication
to turn it on.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Wow.
So, to start out Saturday morning, I think it was, we found out that Ricardo and Yuki are confirmed for the grid next year, leaving Liam Lawson seatless as of right now. What are your thoughts? What's your take?
Okay, well, this is speculation, of course.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm torn because I like all 3 of the drivers.
Yep.
I like Yuki. He, obviously there's been performances. Well, and I guess in seasons prior to this, there's been a ton of bad performance issues. And this season, it's gotten better.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're sticking with him.
With Yuki, yeah.
Yeah. Daniel Ricciardo is just to get an experienced driver in, I guess, to potentially fill that Red Bull seat for next year.
And help sell the team, I guess.
Yeah. For sure. That's going to bring a lot of fans, having Daniel Ricciardo on your team. And you also have support from Japanese fans with Yuki. You saw at these past 2 weekends, it's been crazy support for Yuki, especially just with Honda in general. I saw, and this is completely speculation because you know that nothing is ever confirmed in Formula One until it's actually confirmed.
Yep.
But I heard or saw online 3 times now from different sources that Lawson was guaranteed a Red Bull seat for 2025.
Not Red Bull, but a race seat is what I've seen. Have you seen Red Bull seat?
Yes.
Oh, that is much different.
It is.
I thought it was just guaranteed one of the 4. That is interesting.
Well, it could, maybe that's what they meant, but it said Red Bull.
Okay. Well,
because maybe it meant Red Bull family.
I've heard they are technically all Red Bull drivers.
Yes.
So I guess, but either way, let's just assume, let's not go too crazy because the implications of him being at Red Bull in 2025 is crazy.
Yeah.
Let's just assume it's AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about Checo's race before we kind of dive too much into this. Yeah. So tell me about the Mr. Toad's wild ride that was Checo's Japan Grand Prix.
Nick has been begging for if you've listened for the entire season, Nick has been begging for a double Red Bull DNF, and we didn't expect it to come from only one driver. But sure enough, this race had that.
Wow.
Checo, in under 15 laps, DNF'd once.
Yep.
Crashed twice, or had contact twice, caused crashes, had contact with Lewis, had contact with Magnussen.
Yep.
And so DNFs. I think at like the 30-ish lap range is when they started to get him ready to come back out into the race because he had a penalty, a 5-second penalty.
And Jonathan Wheatley is a genius, the sporting director, and read the rules or already knew or something.
Yeah.
That it could carry over.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I feel like this has happened before, and I've never seen it actually carry over.
Yeah.
So this seems like something only Mercedes or Red Bull would be thinking about. They'd be like,
that's true.
Well, next race he could,
because most other teams that's just not happened.
A DNF is seen as like time already served,
Yes.
like in a So yeah.
So Checo comes back out around the 30-ish lap range to do one lap to serve a penalty. Well, 2 laps, I guess.
Yeah, I think
he
it
went around
being,
one lap, came into the pit, served a penalty, went out for one more lap, then retired the car. I had never heard of that happening before. I'm sure it has, but I was just like, this is such a Checo thing to do. It's such a Sergio Perez thing to happen for this season. I mean, this is by far his worst race for the season.
Oh, for sure.
Driving wise, like just results wise. I mean, it's everything
he
was
lost his
bad
mind
about this.
He lost his mind this race.
Yeah. Every gap that he would go for just wasn't there, but he tried to make it there. And it was just mind boggling to think that he would be driving like that.
And to
win a constructors.
I know.
Same day.
And to give him some credit before, because we're going to trash on him for a little bit here, I think. Yeah. I have heard that he did some interview about having some mental health issues. That's a real thing.
Yes.
That's a real thing. I understand. It happened to Valtteri Bottas. Bottas had an eating disorder, and we talked about that earlier in the season. So we sympathize. But what the heck, Checo? Seriously, where did this come from? I think I started thinking about, okay, Singapore and Japan aren't crazy far apart as we are to Japan, all right? America's to Japan.
Yes.
But think about it. He flew all the way there just to do this. They moved the car there, engineers, the money spent just to have a race like this.
The side of the Red Bull engineer once, when they were bringing Checo's car into the garage, there was one Red Bull engineer. If I can find the clip later, I'll show it to you. Is just defeat. Even though he knows they're probably about to win a championship, you just see defeat on this man's face as Checo's race car engineer.
Yeah. So, on the same weekend that I already felt like Lawson was getting kind of screwed, Checo looked real bad. Mm-hmm. So this goes back into play of, will Ricciardo get a seat? The whole thing that we talked about last week. I think there's a chance Ricciardo might be in the 2024 seat from day one.
Yeah.
They're not going to say that right now, but the fact that they guaranteed Liam Lawson a seat in 2025 basically 100% means that Checo's not getting another contract.
Yeah.
There's no other option.
Yeah, for sure.
Checo is done by the end of next season.
Mm-hmm.
So if he has more bad races this season and Ricciardo comes back and is fine, I see no reason that they won't go ahead and just do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy to watch. It was kind of sad. I mean, I've talked about how I like Checo, but this is rough. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm going to take it back to the original discussion. I've come to my conclusion. This week was my conclusion that Checo is the worst driver in the top three teams. And someone who shall remain nameless, but shall remain my mother, texted me and said that she thinks Checo is the second best driver on the grid just because he's currently in second place in this year's championship. And she said that he's better than Lewis. How? Mom, how is this possible? I told her I was going to call her out. I was like, don't make me do it. So, and she did. So, he's the worst. He's the worst. He had every opportunity this year to at least come home in second or third every single race. And I started thinking about this. How much sooner could a Red Bull have won the Constructors' Championship They could have set a record that would have been probably unbeatable in the earliest. I think there's 6 races where he was outside the top 3, which is kind of, in my opinion, with this year's Red Bull's car is the minimum job is a podium.
Yeah.
The minimum job. And I even took Singapore out of that equation because they both had trouble.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't put that on Checo. That was on Red Bull. So, I just think anybody else wouldn't have done this. The start of the race, he actually hit Lewis twice and sent him into the grass. There was chaos, and then his move on K-Mag was just the most rookie thing I've ever seen.
It looked like
Mazepin is what my dad said. Mazepin. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, Checo. Like, we're gonna miss you, but I mean, do you think it's possible that he doesn't start 2024?
Yeah, for sure.
You do?
I think there's a chance that they confirm Ricardo, see how the season goes, just to make sure they at least have Ricardo in a seat, confirmed. And over the break, whenever the season is over, either make changes and pull Ricardo up, to Red Bull. I think that's a possibility. I mean, when Albon was there, they went through
9 races. Well, you mean Gasly?
Or when it was Albon then Gasly. Then,
you mean Gasly then Albon?
Or sorry. I mean, they were quick to swap them out, and that was in the middle of the season.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, Gasly then Albon. Sorry, then they got rid of Albon.
No, you're right.
It's very complicated.
They're quick to swap it out, and I don't see, or they could do it if they wanted to, which it's starting to look that way. So at least from our, most favored person in the Formula One world, Helmut Marko. Sarcasm. Please do not clip that. Saying, I'm looking at you, Nick. Do not clip that saying Dawson thinks Helmut Marko is the best person in Formula One. No.
Hey, it gets the clicks, man. I can't be the other one that looks like a moron. So Lewis is currently 33 points behind him. I think it's very possible that he catches him.
I agree.
He has to make 5.5 points up over 6 weekends, including 3 sprints.
Yeah.
So it's totally possible. 5.5 points per weekend.
I mean, it's just looked like Checo's race career this season has looked like just a downhill slope, I feel like.
I know. And remember Miami? He's on pole. It all feels good. And then just,
And obviously, like you had said, I was going to bring this up as well, but I'm glad you did. With his mental health stuff, I mean, like you said, even Bottas with being that second driver of a championship winning team, especially back-to-back champions, and now having this Constructors Championship win, knowing that people are online saying Max is the reason we got this championship, not you.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that stress.
I mean, Max is even saying, Max early in the season was like, I can win the Constructors on my own.
Yeah.
That's an exact quote from an interview.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's rough. And
I can't imagine.
He's not the only one that goes through this either. Mm-hmm. So I flip back and forth. I'm obviously very sympathetic, but at the same time,
you're in Formula One.
Yeah,
you're supposed to be one of the best drivers, or you're amongst the best drivers in the world,
and they all go through this at some point. Yeah. So I sympathize for sure, except for Max. Yeah, yeah. That's actually interesting to hear about Max's psyche. That'd be interesting to study.
Yeah, if he would ever do it, I'd be interested to hear an interview of him with a sports psychiatrist or something like that.
Yeah, needs help. All right. Anyway, give me Max's race since we brought him up.
So obviously he finished P1. I suspect his standards of the year, he led the whole race except for when he pitted. That was just because of the undercut. As soon as he was back in pole, he pretty much just kept it and stormed off. Finished 15 seconds ahead of P2
with multiple safety cars. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And don't forget, I think I said 2003 or 6. It was a Michael Schumacher lap. I think it was 2003. It's the biggest gap from first to second since then.
Wow. Wait, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, because
I thought he had one lot bigger than that.
No, 8/10. I thought that too. It was in Q2. So the pole lap is his biggest gap.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So biggest gap in anybody currently on the grid's history, except including Alonso. So, very impressive. Lewis, Mercedes had just a pretty rough weekend overall. They recovered to P5 and P7, but it was it was a tough watch. They fought each other really hard, and George was getting upset.
Yeah.
George was in P7, and George attempted to make a one-stop work that it didn't fail. It's just he didn't improve.
Yeah.
It was worth the risk. And, I think we were kind of talking about this before we started recording. Lewis is kind of becoming no more Mr. Nice Guy. And I saw a tweet. I want to give them credit. I literally saved it just so I could talk about this. There's somebody that talked about what George Russell is experiencing right now, and I thought they put it in the perfect words. So I have no idea who this is. Her name it's at Beth with 2 H's F1. And then she says,
"Thanks, Beth.
This got quite the interactions. I actually think George Russell is a nice guy and a fast racer. But what's happening to him at the moment is what every single one of Lewis Hamilton's teammates go through. It's that slow but sure realization that they aren't as fast, and that's a painful thing to come to terms with."
I did see that actually.
I
saw that on. That's probably how I saw it.
Yeah. That's the perfect way to put it. I mean, Bottas hated Lewis when they started, and it's not. I'm not being like, haha, like Lewis is faster. I mean, it's a tough thing to deal with because all of the F1 drivers talk about this, and this is probably something that Checo was struggling with his mental health as well. Is every driver has to believe they're the best driver. And if you're getting beat every weekend, Checo's getting it to the extreme right now. If you're getting beat every weekend by however much, it's tough to realize. And this is what's happened with every one of Lewis's teammates.
Yeah, I'd seen it was a reporter, or maybe it was one of the drivers interviewing. I guess it's pretty much the exact same thing. They were like, "How do you put up with?" Like how you said, in Formula One, you've got to be the best. You got to think you're the best to even have a chance at winning a championship, because you have to have that confidence, not only to drive the fastest cars in racing, but to go up against 19 other people driving the fastest cars in racing. How do you put up with someone that statistically is better than you in every facet of racing?
Yep, that's a great way of putting it. You can't.
Yeah.
So, and George, I think George didn't realize how much faster than Lewis was last year. And this is something that people clowned on a lot, which was Lewis was like behind George a lot last year.
Yeah.
But what they didn't realize is they were trying to give George the most balanced car possible, just to let him get used to driving a faster car.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this many times. They gave Lewis all the really tough assignments of, hey, try this. We're going to balance your car differently and see if this works, because they were having so much issues.
Yeah.
And you could see it. It's not just because Lewis is older that he was struggling to get out of the car in Baku last year and George Russell didn't. It's because they gave Lewis a tougher setup and tried to make it work. So, anyway, so Russell, in the back of his mind thinks he's beating Lewis a lot. Maybe he's doing well. And then Lewis is starting to beat him in race pace.
Yeah.
And Lewis is talking about how he thinks he's qualified terribly over the last couple of years and he wants to improve that. So, he was supposed to go to the factory this week, and he's going to go and sit with the engineers and make sure his requested changes are being put on the car.
Wow.
Like, this is a quote from him in an interview. Like, it's not like
speculation.
No,
or
this is
like
him
that.
saying
Yeah.
it. So, and you mentioned to me, what'd you say about Red Bull's design or something, Lewis?
Oh, yeah, I still have it pulled up. Yeah, I saw this related ad on a Formula One website. It says Hamilton no longer holding back and asked Mercedes to copy Red Bull concept in 2024.
Yeah. Well,
and obviously it's just a little pop-up thing, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah. So anyway, I sympathize with George. People are going to probably get more and more angry with him right now because they're going to go through this period of time. But I think after a while it'll settle in. And George is going to be the number one guy eventually. Bottas was never going to be the number one guy. So
yeah, I think Toto, while he didn't not like Bottas, I think he really likes George.
Yeah.
I think.
And I should mention too that Toto's the one that called in. So I didn't get this far, but eventually Lewis got past George.
Yes.
And they were arguing and the engineers are arguing, and Toto called in from where he was and overruled and let Lewis by George. So he made the ultimate decision. It was a little too late for Lewis to have any chance at Leclerc, and Lewis might have had a chance at P4. I kind of doubted it was a stretch, but he at least would have had a chance. And like I said, Leclerc finished P4. I'll go ahead and talk about him since I mentioned him. The saddest thing for him was he saw Checo retire late in the race for the second time and thought it was Max retiring and thought he was going to be on the podium. And then when he came across the line and was P4, he was very sad.
Oh, yeah. I saw that, and I felt so bad for him.
So I talked a lot, so tell me about Sainz's race.
P6, he mainly lost positions, he said, to a second pit stop that he just couldn't regain pace from. He said he got behind Hamilton and just couldn't gain it back on him. So, and
he also mentioned over the radio that they were using his trick against him. Do you remember that? All right. You had a great race last week, buddy, but like that's not your trick. Like you didn't come up with this. So I actually don't know who did, but somebody did when DRS was invented.
Yeah.
So but I think it was they mentioned Alonso had done it before, so it could have been Alonso. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
Anyway, give me somebody else. Lando.
Yeah. So we have a huge day for McLaren. Lando finishes P2 again, so 2 races in a row he's on the podium at P2, so that's awesome. And then obviously Piastri
P3 double podium, first rookie on the podium in 10 years. So that's pretty awesome.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I lied. Sorry, I got the stats backward. First rookie on the podium since 2017.
I was about to say that
Lance Stroll was the last one. That was a rookie that was on the podium for Williams. Sorry, the 2017 is 10 years ago is another stat that I'm blanking on. So anyway.
Gotcha. But yeah, huge day for McLaren. I am very excited to see them back on pace, especially like ahead of Ferrari and Mercedes. I really hope they keep this up, and especially with development for next year. Hopefully it's just not another this year where they start off really bad again after a new development thing. I'm worried for 26.
They got a couple tracks coming up that look really positive for them.
Yeah.
Qatar could be very well. They got there's high dag at Qatar, but I think could be a really positive race for McLaren, which is the next race.
Dude, speaking of the next tracks, I am way too excited to watch this Las Vegas race. I am way too excited.
I'm excited because there's only one race that isn't at a reasonable time for us to watch live for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Qatar's a noon start.
Yep.
So that's great. The U.S. races after that, it's like 2:30 or something. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. Also, the sprints are a good time to watch live.
Yep.
Then Mexico, which is 1:30. This is Central American time. And then Brazil is noon or something. I can't remember. Yeah. So, and then Abu Dhabi. So, like we'll lose it at that point.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I'm very excited. So I hope McLaren stays good. Maybe not as good as I want Mercedes to be better. But
of course.
Another thing.
I never want them to be above Red Bull.
But you know what? I'm okay if Lewis manages to get P2 in the championship with the 4th fastest car. Just
listen, at least half of their name is Mercedes. It always says McLaren Mercedes.
This is true. See, I get 50% credit. Okay, so actually it's funny because I used to say I don't mind if Red Bull wins the championship one time if Lewis wins the drivers.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just further proof. Because I was always saying he can't drive a car fast if it sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, clearly he can. So anyway, moving on. Piastri, good job. Who you want to talk about next?
Alonso, P8 for him. He was, if you watch the race, you can hear him on the radio very much not happy with his team's strategy.
First time the whole season I've heard him actively angry.
He pitted early to get hards and pretty much was just it was over for them. Yeah. Since he got pitted early, everyone else just gained more time on him over time. When everybody had fresh tires, he had high degradation tires. Yeah. So he was not happy at all, as you can hear over the radio. What about
as we predicted, the Aston Martin fad is over.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, they're going to be P2 this year. You guys know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you got to think about how development goes, and I think this wind tunnel allocation probably killed him some too.
Yeah.
So, Stroll, another DNF. This time, not his fault as far as I can tell. Might be his fault somehow. His rear wing was too loose, and they gave the X sign, so he had to box to retire. Rough day. Losing more points to McLaren, so McLaren's coming at P4 hard. I think they could definitely get it.
I think they're going to take it.
It's a shame if they don't, because no one since the summer break has come back has gotten more points than Max Lando's in second. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So, So anyway, I think we should talk about Alpine. You want to tell me about there's some drama happened between Ocon and Gasly. So how was Ocon's race?
P9, so he at least got points. What will Alpine finish? What, P6?
Yes.
Projected?
Yeah,
like
that's
P6?
rough. That's rough.
For them, what? Last year it was
P4.
Yeah, P4. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they were. Yeah, because McLaren had lost to them for the past 2 years, I think.
Yeah, so real rough. During the race, they let Ocon pass. No, sorry, they let Gasly pass. But apparently, a pre-race agreement was that they were going to do this for the strategy, which I should have done last week. But anyway, and then on the last corner, they had already pre-decided they were going to let Ocon pass Gasly, which they did. But then Gasly lost his mind. It was super upset about it, and he got P10. I don't know what they were so angry about. But something's going on there. Maybe they're saying they intended to let Gasly first and they let Ocon first instead. I don't know.
That's weird because they were both. It was going to be a P9, P10 finish anyway, right?
Yeah, clearly there's something going on because clearly he was very upset. But just remember.
Yeah, I heard I guess there were someone posted. It was like, this is why sometimes you keep that push to talk button.
Yeah.
Unpushed.
Yeah.
And it was just Gasly screaming in his car.
Yeah. So just remember though, Otmar was the problem.
Obviously.
So, obviously. Do you want to give me Liam Lawson?
Yeah. For his last race, we think he got P11, so just outside the points. Obviously resigned as a reserve driver. It was a good race for him. And in AlphaTauri, he's doing better than we've seen all year. Or past years, honestly. So very happy with how he has done. Hopefully we'll get to see him again soon.
Well, yeah, see, I was suspicious when he wasn't that upset about not getting a seat, but now knowing that he has a guaranteed seat, take it.
Yeah, I heard that. Well, he earlier this week, I saw a quote from him saying he doesn't want a reserve seat anymore.
Well, yeah.
And obviously, he doesn't want it. But he says that he doesn't think it's out of the realm of possibility to have a seat next year.
Yeah, I definitely think, and all of us were thinking at the time, oh, maybe he means Williams, whatever. I
think it's going to be at AlphaTauri.
Dude, I think Checo might be done after this season.
Yeah.
I know I already said it, but I want you to really sink in and think about what we're about to witness here. Because Ricardo actually might not come back next race. It's 50-50 right now. And honestly, with a confirmed seat, if I was Ricardo, if I wasn't sure, I would wait.
Oh, yeah.
There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ricardo, all he needs to do is just throw down a couple races. And he loves Austin, so that's going to be great as long as there's no mechanical issues. I would say right now it's about 50-50 on Checo next year. And that is shocking. So,
yeah.
Even though my mother thinks he's the second best driver on the grid, so she's gonna be so mad at me. I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom. You disagree with my mother too?
I think so. I'm sorry. I think it's Max, Lewis, and then the other bottom four.
Yeah, sure. We'll argue over the top two some other time. But let's move on to Yuki. Yuki got beat by Lawson in the race. No points. Fine race. I don't really expect AlphaTauri to score, so neither of them did. Yeah. So it's whatever. And if anything, they had a nice little mini battle, which was cool to watch.
Oh yeah.
So,
fun.
And Yuki didn't get impeded by Max this week, so that's good. Oh, we talked about that already. That they had we said this last week that they had said that they should have given Max a penalty. So, Valtteri Bottas, second DNF in a row. When he got maliciously attacked by the American, I've been channeling my inner rocket power Mohawk. Second DNF in a row after having none the whole season. Not his fault. So that was pretty rough. Why don't you give me Joe Guanyu and Logan Sargent kind of at the same time?
Joe P13. There wasn't once again. There's not much to cover because they didn't really cover him much at all during the race.
Yeah.
But Logan Sargent, of course, DNF'd. had an incident with Bottas, as you said, and just had to retire the car. And for Williams, this was just a super unlucky weekend.
Yeah, he's at 3.9 mil of damages, and they today I sent an article in the group chat that I saw that said James Vowles is saying that he's actively inhibiting their development for next year because of the money he spent crashing.
Yep.
And something else we didn't even mention, or like in our group chat, was it's
Yep.
probably also inhibiting the amount of facilities they have to start building new parts.
Yep.
Because they have to build old parts.
Mm-hmm.
Sargent also got a penalty because they essentially built a third car, is what they call it, a third chassis.
Yeah.
So he got a pit lane start plus 10 seconds. So it was if there's anybody that needed to DNF from the race for some penalties, it's Logan Sargent.
Yeah.
So. Oh, we should also mention that they're taking that out of the rules for the future now that Red Bull has exploited it, and they're going to write that out of the rules for next year.
Oh,
which
okay.
is you can't do this anymore.
Gotcha.
And it might even be by next race, but I know it's by next year. So
Gotcha.
could see someone doing it again this year. So,
Please don't be Checo again.
yeah. Albon also didn't recover. They DNF'd so bad that they posted their end of race post during the race. He got hit into the first turn by everybody's favorite Checo, and he took flight and he never recovered. So that sucked. And also, while we're just getting the list done, K-Mag got spun by Checo and also DNF'd.
Yeah. Hulkenberg got P14, and that's it.
Yeah.
For Hulkenberg.
Well, I'm going to do winner and loser first just to make it a little harder for you because there's an easy winner and easy loser.
Yeah.
Winner, Red Bull, minus Checo.
Yeah.
Because 6 Constructors Championship there, and Max can win the Drivers Championship with at least a 6th place finish in the sprint race. That's all he has to do, which is almost guaranteed.
I don't want him to.
Why?
I want to see him do it on a race.
Why?
Race win.
Well, so you don't want him to be like hungover during the race the next day?
Well, I mean that, but I don't know. It just like last year he didn't get to celebrate on a race win when he got the victory.
Listen, I'm not going to sympathize.
I know he doesn't. You don't give me sympathy for this. I don't care. Okay. Anyway, I want Max to have a celebration for it.
Well, Lewis won his last championship and no one was even there because of COVID. So,
I mean, fair.
Womp.
But he's had
Max.
He had 6 to work with before that.
Max can win 12 championships in a row and just evenly spread out the excitement that he had from 2021 Abu Dhabi, and it would be fair enough. That's what I'm always say. Anyway, loser Checo, obvious reasons, and he's probably gonna lose a seat. Anyway, go ahead.
Winner is gonna be McLaren. Another podium finish, a double podium to put that in perspective. Loser, probably Williams.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a Williams loser day for me.
It was a regular. It was like we were watching a normal Williams race again. That's exactly how it was like, old friend.
We don't have hope from Albon, from Albon for this race.
So last thing is McLaren delusion syndrome. How are we doing? Is it gone? Is it just?
Oh, it's back in full force, baby.
So you think McLaren could take the fight to Red Bull next year?
Okay.
Do you think they're the most likely to take the fight to Red Bull next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, Ferrari's so wishy-washy.
Okay.
Mercedes is like, screw this car, we're on to next year.
Mercedes will either definitely take the challenge to them or not at all.
Yeah, and McLaren's like
the most likely. Yeah.
I mean, it was a flip of a switch for them. Seriously, like look at the first race of this season.
It's insane.
To now, both DNFing because of engine or car technical issues to both finishing on a podium in front of a Red Bull, twice now.
So I have another question for you. I posed this to Ryan, and he said he wouldn't, but he's more of an Oscar Piastri fan. He claims that you are more of a Lando Norris fan.
Yes, very much.
Okay, so with that said, at the beginning of the race, pretend you're not a Max fan, just for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you have had sacrificed Piastri if they had crashed and it would have guaranteed Lando his first win?
Oh, 100%.
See, Ryan said no, and I was like,
100%.
every McLaren fan in the world. But
I would rather have Norris win one race out of these remaining races than see Max win another race this season.
Wow. Well, he doesn't have to.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I would rather see Lando Norris win any time this season than see Max win another.
Wow. You heard it here first.
I mean, because I'm just a big Lando Norris fan. I obviously like McLaren. I like Red Bull. Red Bull's won the championship. You know, I mean, Max still got drivers' championships. Maybe not that severe, actually.
See, well,
if Max has to sacrifice one race win for Lando, let it be, Max. Let it be,
dude. He now has the worst stat in the second worst stat in Formula One.
Oh, Lando.
Yeah, which is the most points without a win.
Yeah.
He's beat one of Hülkenberg's 2 records. Hülkenberg's other record is the worst one, other than
it's like most sport points without a podium, right?
Well, yes, yeah, and it would be the same in race win.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
So, and Haas never having a race win either is just
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Haas doesn't have a podium.
It's
bad.
Wow.
Dude, if Nico manages to win a race for Haas at some point, oh man, that'd be crazy.
Yeah,
but
Steiner's gonna have dude. I haven't said Gunther
Steiner in a while.
Name in a long time.
I know. When Drive to Survive comes around, they get their peak, and then
that's true. That book came out. We talked about it a little bit, and now it's downhill.
Oh, one more thing, and then we'll go for sure. Logan Sargent's lost his seat. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. Okay.
If James Vowles is coming out and saying, "Hey, he is messing up our development for a new car," it's not looking good for him.
I guess let's put it this way. He might stay for money reasons, but he deserves to lose his seat.
Yeah. Because if it was anybody else other than someone that we're just like rooting for, we'd be like, oh, they're
get
gone.
him out. Yeah. So,
I mean, look at what we say about Stroll.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's not even as bad as Logan. So.
Is there a Stroll fan? Like I'm not going to make fun of you, okay, if you're listening. DM me. I want to hear your reasons. I'm not going to make fun of you. I just want to know what you like about
fan?
And you can't be related. You cannot be related. So, or have dated him, or friends with him. I would someone that just has not met
unrelated, just a Formula One fan that likes Lance Stroll as a driver.
No, it's your favorite driver.
Oh, favorite driver.
Do you exist? We're on a mission to find you, and if we find you. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're cool, maybe we'll have you on the podcast.
Okay.
Lance Stroll's only fan club would be a great video.
It would be.
Not to be confused with Lance Stroll's only fan. All right, that's it. We're done.
Yeah, I think that deserves us to end this.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to us and Lance Stroll's OnlyFans.
Oh my gosh.
It's fine. We're leaving it in. It's too funny.
All right.
This Lance calling. All right, bye.